This place is called Zwettl. It's in northern Austria, it's not so far from the Czech border. This is the main square of Zwettl. Renaissance ensemble, and what I suspect may well be the oldest part of the town. That is clearly the old town hall, which dates to the 15th century. The fountains are new, and we see fountains being put up in a number of places. I've noticed in this trip in southern Germany and in Austria. Indeed, there are places doing walks around the fountains. The style of the houses attests to the wealth in former times. That's certainly 15th, 16th, 17th centuries. The terror of bygone times was not only invaders, but the plague, and plague columns can be seen in many places in Central Europe. And 14th, 17th and 18th centuries here, the plague struck with a special terror, let's say, a number of victims. Anyway, this plague column, the Trinity Square column, it's called the plague column, it's the Holy Trinity, rather than 1901 in other modes, that dates the 17th century. This is the main shopping street, and we can see the Baroque houses. Sort of places that were normally inhabited by merchants. I suppose they're the shop owners, aren't they, today? This place is called Neue Markt. Now, anywhere it's got a name like New Market or something like that means that in bygone times the town was enlarged, so a new place for the market had to be found. And so you might have places called like New Town Market or something like that. In this case it's called New Market. And up there is a sandstone model of the risen Christ with a cross in his hand. This area became part of the town in 1230. It was sold in 1419 to Earl Albrecht V. So that's the hospital church, and Schulgasse indicates that there was once a school down here. And the tower we see in front of us dates to the middle of the 13th century, and it's got its name from the oldest citizens' school in Lower Austria, so it's called the School Tower. It was closed sometime, don't know when, historic times, reopened in 1872. And it's got apparently a remarkable zoological collection. Here we have a Discovery Nature Way. And from here You see the car park, the free car park, belonging to the town. I left my van. It's a place for longer vehicles on the other side of the car park, which is beyond this building here. I've often referred to the fate of the city walls of Newcastle upon Tyne, where I come from, where when the railway was built in the 1840s, the town wall from medieval days had to be knocked down to make way for it. And the same thing happened here, because once upon a time there was a ditch here. I've mentioned these ditches in other places, for example in Gmunden, where I was last week. This tower reminds us what was once here. It's called Sattig's Tower. And this was filled in 1896 to make way for the railway. And there you have part of the city wall which survived. At least the city wall survived, if the moat didn't. Well, this building is clearly a manor house. It's now seen better days. Look down the main street, and here we have this very curious tower, Anton's Tower, marked the northwest corner of the former fortifications. It's almost 30 metres high. Built on a rock above the Zwettl, the valley of the Zwettl river. It certainly is extremely unusual shape, irregular, it's octagonal. Let's have a look at it from another angle. The European Union protecting European history and culture. Around 917 metres of the city wall here have been preserved. As a general rule, the less wealthy a town was in the 19th century, the more of the city wall will be preserved. If the town did not grow out of the city wall, or there was no reason to knock it down, it might have survived. The population declined. Okay, nobody's going to be looking after it, but it might have survived. It's when the space was needed, that's when it got knocked down. In some places, such as here, which is quite obvious, the city wall survived because it was also used for other buildings. So, if you want to build a house or something, the wall's already there, so you just have to build 3 more walls. The stream's that colour normally because it's flooded. So we have a bit of the wall there. Up there, and then we can see this unusual tower from here. Zwettl in many ways reminds me of Olomouc in Czechia. Of course, it's not all that far from here. I shall be passing Olomouc as I drive north. In fact, it's almost within cycling distance. Not a return cycling distance, but you can certainly get there within one day. Sleep there and come back the following day. Very similar the way the walls have been preserved in certain places, as well as the park that's on the outside of it. You can see that this was once different, probably a gate, because there that appears to be a pechnaz, which is an opening through which boiling hot pitch would be poured onto anybody who wasn't welcome. Enemies mainly. Up here we've got the Stations of the Cross with mosaics which date to 1970, but the way up is a couple of hundred years earlier than that. And skruit niet in. We have here the Soviet military cemetery. It has 65 graves. Here we see the names of those killed during the war, or I should say after the war. They would have been wounded and died of their injuries afterwards. So the first one dies on the 6th of June 1945, and the last one dies on the 3rd of February 1946. Now the others are from the period of the Soviet occupation of Austria, which happened in the 10 years after the war. The Soviet base was nearby, so these were people who died whilst on service here in Austria. And what's quite unusual is that they've all got individual names. Even the unknown here has one person in the grave. Normally they're mass graves for Soviet losses. And as you can see, the graves are very well tended. So if anybody's seen this in Russia, they should be quite pleased, or any other countries of the former Soviet Union. The War Memorial, and as always, I'd like to tell you how many people lived here. In 1910, the population of Zwettl was approximately 13,600 people. In 1939, it dropped to 12,800. So we have deaths from the First World War, and here, much larger, as is often the case, deaths from the Second World War, from the population of 12,800 people. There's one, if he's mentioned here, I will tell you something about. Walter Nowotny. He held the record for the most amount of planes shot down. He was a fighter pilot. His final tally, I think, was 254 planes. He was killed in November 1944. He was only 23 when he died. He was born in Gemund, died to the south of Bielefeld in action. It's not quite certain how he was killed, how he was brought down, who did it. There's 3 or 4 potential ways it could have happened. The only thing that was known, last message, was either I'm on fire or it's on fire. And he's not here. List of years, I can't find them. As always, you can see the church for a very long way around. That is the parish church of the Blessed Virgin's Assumption, built probably in the first half of the 13th century in late Romanesque style. The documents mentioning it as early as 1280 and referred to as the lower church. In 1483 it became a parish church. In the 15th, 17th and 18th centuries it was rebuilt, and the last major rebuilding took place in 1854. Certainly pretty dominating over everything else. That was a brief walk around Zwettl, a place which is not on the tourist map, although the countryside around also looks quite interesting. On my way back to the van now. We've got this tower which has been built into the city wall, well, deliberately of course, it was part of the defences, called Moses Tower. And it's 3 stories, as you can see, and it's been built into, or integrated into flats, which I think is a great use for historical objects, making them something which can be used today, and preserving their life, of course, preserving them so we can see them, as well as giving them something useful. Once upon a time, that may well have been a prison as well. Now, to the north of the town, we've got the monastery, and you can do a guided tour around there, and there's 23 or 27 monks, something like that, and they've got all sorts of businesses. They've got 2,500 hectares of forest, they've got 90 hectares of fish farm, that's incredible. And got a couple of other things running as well, running guided tours and all the rest of it. I mean, such a small number of monks, they're also quite old. I really hope that they're not wasting their time doing anything like praying. Make sure that the businesses are running properly. So, here they've got a good attitude towards camping and campers, which is you just leave your camper van on the public parking, there's no problem with that, and as long as you're not expecting any water or water dump or anything like that, or electricity. But hey, you're living in the parking space, you can't expect that there. That's very positive. And I left my van not in the car park here, which now might find a space because it's people who possibly work here might have taken their cars and gone home. Yes, there's spaces down there. I suppose mine would fit with the overhang hanging onto the grass. I've left mine on the other side of the road, and I think I can now see it through the trees. So I left mine with the lorries and the buses. I think it's a nice place to visit, very, very pleasant place to visit. Something original. And something unexpected. There you go, there's my van through the trees on the other side of the road. Now I have to decide where I'm going next.